Welcome to Cass Connects, the podcast where business leaders, innovators, and industry experts come together to share ideas, insights, and strategies shaping the future of business. Here's your host, Teresa Mears.
Hey, welcome. I'm Teresa, your host for Connect with Cass, and today I have Laurie Boogaard, who is the Vice President of Operations for our Facilities Expense Management Division, recently combined with Waste, former telecom, and utilities is now our facilities business. So welcome, Laurie.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what your role is at Cass?
Yeah, so I have 30 plus years of experience in the operations world, which some people may call me crazy for that. But for CAS, what I am really responsible for is like the full invoice life cycle, right? So invoices that come in, however we receive them, whether it's from the post office electronically, we process them, are responsible for effectively processing them, handling any of the exceptions, and then making sure the payments get out on time as well, and then any project management and any organizational communication.
You run that place over there, and I know the team greatly appreciates your 30 years plus. So thank you for continuing to stay in operations.
Absolutely.
It
Absolutely.
is it is a hard job because there's a lot going on. Can you share with us maybe some numbers just to kind of put it in perspective of, I mean, what you described was pretty straightforward and easy, and if I'm
Right.
paying my bills at home, makes
Right.
perfect sense. But we do it at a little bit of a higher level. So can you share like some information?
We are processing anywhere from 30 to 60,000 invoices on a daily basis, over a million on a monthly basis. So we're not talking small little numbers like your individual bills, right? So, and then from that standpoint, there's usually like 10% that fall into what we consider exception handling. There's something unique happening with them. There's something different on the invoice that we need to pay attention to that also requires some additional time frame on it. And then, of course, all of the checks and the ACH payments and the credit card payments that are processed on a monthly basis as well. So we are always moving fast, and we're always working on getting things done as quickly and as effectively as possible.
And you receive invoices by email. We download them off the web, and we still receive quite a bit of snail mail, as we like to call it.
We do. We get anywhere from 9,000 to about 17,000 pieces of mail on a daily basis. And then we do receive up to 30,000 emails that the team also handles on a daily basis, which we've just recently gone through some really, really exciting automation through that process as well. That's just on top of the EDI that we received, all of the invoices that we scrape off the websites as well. So, a variety of ways working to make sure we get those invoices quickly.
You mentioned the 10% exceptions.
Mhm.
Exceptions is a big discussion that we're talking about with CAS being in business for 120 years, freight for 70 and then utilities for 40. We have a lot of experience, we have a lot of knowledge, and we have a lot of tenure in CAS. So that knowledge has been passed on. And so we've been really highlighting AI to help us move quicker, faster, better. But when you're dealing with invoices that are always tied to a high incidence of fraud, and you're
Mhm.
dealing with payments, which is also
Mhm.
connected to a high incidence of fraud, but then also you got the timely payments. So all of those three things are a challenge. So exceptions are usually the first thing that throws one of those off, or they have to double check it. But it's also majority of the time it was, changing of an account number, or the client didn't tell us they added a new account, or the vendor changed their I mean, there's several different reasons. So that kind of creates a little bit of friction. Can you tell me what your team does to address the exceptions? And then I would have a follow-up question to say, is there anything that we can tell our clients and vendors that would help us overcome these exceptions and get them to reduce?
We have what we call our different, for technical terms, workflow pools that they fall into. So we have folks that are specializing in the particular exception, whether it's called, whether it's an account that's not on file, whether it is a balance carry forward that we have to figure out why did it carry forward? Should we pay it? Should we not pay it? What are the preferences that the client would like us to do in that situation? Is it truly a duplicate invoice? Everything may match on that invoice, but maybe it's off by a few cents, or the service dates are slightly off. We need to compare and see if that is different. Or why did we receive this invoice before the previous month's invoice, and what's the timing, and let's just review it. So you had spoken about the tenure of the team and the knowledge that the team has. And this is where our team members who really understand the nitty gritty of all of the ins and outs of the exceptions really get to use their knowledge and get to use the technical tools that we have in front of them so that they can make some really smart decisions on making sure, do we move this forward? Do we send it back to just adjust whatever needs to be adjusted on the invoice and get the payment sent out, or do we need to wait for some client feedback on what's going on? And in some situations, we may also reach out to the vendor because it may look like, hey, we sent you a payment last month. It doesn't look like you fully applied that correctly. Let's make sure and let's work through that and see where the differences are. So it's really understanding the nuances, what is within our control, but then also the team is empowered to say, hey, we're seeing a lot of, XYZ exception happening for this particular vendor. What's going on? Where there really are early warning systems before the data may really tell us what is happening. So then we can go look. The leadership team can go look and dig deeper into the data to see, do we have some trends? Do we need to work with this vendor? Do we need to alert the client there's something wonky that is going on and we need help in getting some additional feedback from them on new sites that they're setting up. So it's really how it's all handled is really through communication and making sure folks are understanding the importance of handling these exceptions really well and knowing when there's something a little bizarre that may be going on that we need to alert the team and dig into deeper.
Can you talk about some of the projects that you have in play? Technology, AI, data extraction, managing exceptions without having a human in the loop. I mean, there's all these different things that are going on. Can you talk to us about your top two projects that you are keeping you up at night, probably?
So in the operational world, we're always challenged with how do we do what we're doing better and faster, more, efficiently. We want to make sure we can scale quickly because when we sign a new client, we don't want to wait as long as to get the client up and running. We want to get that going and recognize that revenue and also help the client out as quickly as possible. So some of the projects that we are leading and going through this year is one of them is with the 30,000 emails that I had mentioned. So many of those emails were coming into a variety of email boxes. We had close to 400 email boxes that we were managing on a daily basis, which is difficult, right? To get your arms around it, like, are we doing what we're supposed to be doing on time? And so we really knew we needed a different way to handle that. So what we are doing is all of those email boxes are going in through an ingestion process. And if there's a PDF of an invoice attached to that, it is being stripped off and going through the process, and no human even takes a look at it. If it is an email that says, "Hey, join us for, tree lighting, here in the next, couple of weeks. Here's the date and time." We know that's what we consider it's not anything that we really need to pay attention to, so we don't even get to see that email anymore. That just goes into a different category for us just to know that it happened. And then let's say in the invoice, there's a PDF and there's also a link that the AI agent doesn't really know what to do with. So whenever the AI agent's like, "I'm not quite sure what this is. You haven't given me direction on what to do with it," we're sending them into our ticket system then for an actual human to take a look at it and to figure out how should we be handling this. And if it is something that we deem the AI agent should be able to handle, then we're giving that feedback to our technical team to make that adjustment so that we don't need to see that email in the future. But what's really exciting is about 12% of the emails that we were looking at before we were looking at all 30,000 of those on a daily basis, right? So that's a lot of time, a lot of effort. Humans get tired. AI doesn't lose energy from that perspective.
Right.
We just keep working and wanting to please. And so we only see 12% of those emails now on a daily basis, which is pretty
Oh, that's
phenomenal.
great.
So we are
That is
doing
great.
yeah, and we're allowing our team members, we hire really smart adults. So we're allowing them to use their brains and make sure that we're handling this appropriately and making the right decisions. And so that's really exciting. So that is one project that is underway and just very, very excited about the outcome of it. The other one that we are in the midst of getting up and running, and we've been working the last several months, is something that is very exciting where we are using it's a variety of technology tools. Of course, AI is one of them as well, where we're going out and using the credentials that we have for our client vendor combination for their accounts and going out to the vendor websites or portals and pulling down the invoice that is ready for us to go ahead and process. So we're looking at is during this time frame, is there an invoice that is available to download? And if there is, fantastic. Let's download it. Let's get it sent through the process. Very similar to the email ingestion process I was talking about. So this way, we are getting the invoices about 11 days sooner than we would if it was going through snail mail.
Mm.
So that is
That's a
exciting.
big difference.
It's a huge difference. It's a huge difference. But just as we know every vendor invoice looks a bit different because they all like to be unique and figure out how they can shine through that perspective, it's the same way with the websites, right? The websites all act a little different. So it is a lot of learning that we are doing and understanding how are we needing to adjust our prompts based on how that portal or website is working and then how the AI agent is responding to those prompts. So we are in the midst of all of the data that we are gathering from it, understanding what we're learning, what we need to adjust, what works for this vendor is not necessarily going to work for that vendor, and making sure that we have all of that information at our fingertips. But we're more than halfway through it, and it's going well at this point. And I can see that the end of the year is going to be a really really cool time for us to see all of this working really well.
You describe it very in a simplistic way for
Yes,
us
it's
to
not.
understand it, but it's not a simplistic process. And but the again the volume, that's kind of what we open with is understand the volume,
Mhm.
over
Mhm.
1 million types of invoices. That's one of the things that separates CAS from a lot is because you can train with the more variety and the more data and the more examples that you put in front of the AI and the team that's, using it to train. And because we've been doing this for so long and we have so many different types of emails and accounts and vendors that we deal with, we really have a history and a backlog of that data that we're able to start feeding it. We don't have to worry about, usually going out and saying how many, types of different invoices are for all these different types of vendors because we pay a lot of vendors. So we have that experience and data available to us, which is, I think, makes us move a little bit quicker than maybe somebody that would be starting up or wanting to expand their service offering.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. That data helps us with this process of where we're automatically downloading the document because we know when to expect that invoice based on
mhm.
historical experience with this particular vendor. So we know when to look for it. So we start looking a few days before, a few days after, just so that we can gather it. And then we're also making sure on a weekly basis that those credentials continue to be the same so that we aren't surprised when it comes up next month that, something has changed and now we've got to scramble to figure out what the new credentials are. So with all that data that we have had in our history, it's really helped us drive and define this project going forward. And we're learning a lot, which is what I love.
What are some of the value that you want to deliver to the client? But, one of the things that we talk about on transportation side was, yes, we get hired by our clients to do it, but we truly want the vendor to get paid on time. Yeah,
Absolutely.
so we work for the vendor as well. So we try to create communication and outreach. So what are some of the value that you think CAS offers our to our clients and our vendors in the process that we're completing?
Our main value is we're taking a pain point that they're experiencing when they're handling it internally or with someone else away from them and taking all of that stress of figuring out what is happening, what do we need to fix, and we're handling it then, right? So we're taking it in house, we're handling it as if it's our own and making sure that we understand how critical it is, we understand how important it is, and with all the data and the knowledge we have and all the technology in place, we're making sure that it's getting done on time and correctly. And if it's not, if there's something that does happen, because challenges do happen, then we recognize that quickly. And then I think one of our values that we bring as well is we're very open with our feedback to the client as well to say, here's where what we're doing really well, and here's where areas that we're currently working on to improve, and making sure that that transparent communication is open and honest.
Gotcha. And, when we did talk about the experience and history, are there any lessons that, you've learned or that you think is important to share and kinda talk about?
In this industry, what is really fascinating and also exciting is it doesn't stay the same. It's not stagnant at all. And so, what the lessons that we are learning is how do we stay on top of that and also get ahead of it and anticipate it, right? What do we anticipate the changes are that we need to make? What are the technology pieces that we need to be thinking about today so that when it becomes something that is asked of us to do in 6 months, we're ready to go, right?
Right.
So that is really one of the lessons that we are learning is we can't rest on our knowledge and rest on that we know what we're doing, but we need to be anticipating what the market is going to be needing 6 months from now, a year from now, what our clients are going to be expecting, because they are also having extreme pressures put on them to do everything, cost effectively, making sure it's high quality. And we're putting those same pressures on ourselves as well. So we have to make sure that we are anticipating those needs and preparing for them now versus waiting to be asked.
And that's very important with leadership. And so I'm going to pivot just a little bit because I know we're talking about your operations, your day job.
My day job.
Um, that's all right. And but you write some articles or post on LinkedIn about leadership, and I read those, and leadership is a huge focus for me. It's so critical and important. You can know everything about the job. You can have the best organizational skills. You can have the best processes in place, but leadership truly is what motivates the people and keeps them going. What are some of the tips or things that you do to help keep the team motivated and focused that would be tied to leadership or communication?
Leadership to me is all about communication. So, leadership is not, in my perspective, a hierarchy. I don't have this title to tell you what to do, right? I have this title to help remove barriers, help figure out as a team how we can collectively do things better and faster and make the workplace even more enjoyable because nobody wants to work at a place that is like, ho hum. We want to be excited about the work that we're doing, understand the value that we are providing, and that then requires that I make sure every team member really understands the piece that they play in this entire process that we are handling the invoice from the beginning to the end. What piece do they play and what is the value that they bring to it? And then making sure they have a voice when something they have an idea or they're like, why are we doing it this way? I think we should be doing it this way. So, leadership to me is really about communication. It's about listening to team members. It's about taking ideas from the team and let's try it. And if it works, fantastic. If it doesn't, fantastic. We learned something. Let's figure out what we need to do differently. But then, most importantly, there's really no ego that should be involved in leadership. You have to be very humble and vulnerable because I make mistakes every single solitary day, and I will tell team members, you know what? I thought that was a really great way to do that, and it didn't work. So please help me. Or maybe I will understand 8 out of the 9 steps, and I need help in understanding that ninth step a little bit more to figure out how to remove a barrier that may be preventing them from doing what they need to do. So help me understand that piece of it. So it's really just making sure team members understand that they are really critical to our success.
Right. That's great. I love that. You said something that really stuck out to me, and I think that is so important. And I just wanted to repeat it. My title doesn't mean to tell you what to do. My title is to help remove barriers. That's one of the things when I've come into an organization, it's always nobody listens to us. I have this idea, I have that, or it couldn't make it up to the level that I know needed to hear it. And you take that position and you use it to help the team remove the
Yeah,
barriers in order to do their job better because they're the ones that are doing the job. So
absolutely. Yeah.
that is absolute perfect advice that I think we should probably leave it with.
There we
So
go. I love it.
I do appreciate your time. This has been fascinating speaking with you. We're hoping to do a few more conversations with you and your team to continue to highlight the things that Cass is doing in order to, do our job better, faster, and more accurate.
Mhm.
Because again, when you're making payments, we can't afford to make the
No,
mistake. And when we're dealing with data, we got to make sure the data going in is good and the data coming out is good. And
absolutely.
it's what we expected it to be. So
Absolutely.
awesome. Well, thank you very much, Lori.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to Cass Connects. We hope today's conversation gave you valuable insights and ideas you can put into action. Visit www.cassinfo.com or email us at connectwithcass@cassinfo.com. Be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode. And if you enjoyed the show, please leave a rating and share it with your colleagues. Until next time, thanks for joining us on Cass Connects. Unlock more. Connect with Cass.